The sky hung low and heavy, smothered with clouds the color of old iron. Dust clawed at the air, swirling in restless gusts that whipped along the narrow, muddy street. Shutters rattled, boots scraped the wooden boardwalks, and everywhere whispers. The crowd pressed in like a pack of wolves, circling the crude wooden platform at the center of the square. It stood tilted, hastily built, its surface slick with last night's rain. Upon it, they lined them up like cattle, women dirty, trembling, faces streaked with dried tears. At the end of the line stood Evelyn, 17, slight of frame, but not spirit. Her hair hung in tangled ropes around her face, damp with sweat, mud crusting the hem of her torn dress. Thick rope bound her wrists tight, the coarse fibers biting into raw skin. But her chin stayed high. Her eyes, swollen red-rimmed, still burned with something fierce beneath the fear. The auctioneer's voice cracked through the square like a whip. "Fresh stock, gentlemen. Don't be shy, get a good look now." He strutted along the platform, greasy hair plastered to his forehead, vest straining over his gut. His boots kicked at the women's legs like inspecting livestock. A little road-worn, sure, but plenty of use left. The crowd snickered. Evelyn's stomach twisted as hands pointed, eyes leered. Men jostled for a closer look. Behind their words lay promises of cruelty, shackles, locked doors, fists. Then the auctioneer reached her. "And here," he declared, grabbing her chin, yanking her face into the light, "we've got something special." Evelyn jerked her head away, defiant. The auctioneer's grin widened, yellow teeth flashing. "Virgin, fresh, untouched. That's worth a premium, boys." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Coins clinked. Boots shuffled. Some men laughed. Others, older, harder, simply stared with the hungry detachment of butchers eyeing meat. Evelyn's pulse thundered in her ears. She thought of home, or what used to be, the small farm outside Deadwood. Her father's rough, calloused hands building the fence. Her mother's gentle voice singing hymns. The smell of bread cooling on the windowsill. Gone. The fire, the screams, the smoke swallowing the house whole. And then her uncle's hand, gripping her arm too tight, whispering lies of safety before selling her to the traders like she was nothing more than a heifer bound for slaughter. A lump clawed its way up her throat, but she swallowed it down. She would not cry. Not here. The auctioneer raised a hand. "Who'll start the bidding?" Voices barked numbers. $20, $40, $50. Laughter. Crude jokes about how long her purity would last. A heavy-set rancher with broken teeth called out, "I'll break her in proper, spirit and all." Evelyn's defiance flickered. Her eyes burned, her legs trembling under her. The crowd closed in, and then a silence thicker than smoke drifted over the square. The crowd parted, heads turning. Boots scuffed the dirt. At the edge of the gathering, near the livery stable, a tall figure emerged, still as a grave marker, broad shoulders wrapped in a weather-beaten black coat, a wide-brimmed hat dipped low, shadowing his face, a rifle slung across his back, worn leather gloves at his sides. The murmurs began. "That's him. Silent. Hell, I thought he was dead. He don't talk. Don't need to. Silent. No one knew his real name anymore. Some said he was a scout gone rogue. Others whispered he was ex-army, dismissed for violence they couldn't stomach. Stories of blood on his hands, of vanished men who crossed him, mute by choice, or perhaps by horror. But everyone agreed. When Silent set his eyes on something, it was his. His gaze lifted to the platform. To her, Evelyn's breath caught. His eyes, piercing, cold, calculating, pinned her in place. He studied her, not like the others, not with hunger, but with something unreadable, as if weighing her soul against the dust. The auctioneer hesitated, voice faltering for the first time. $50, going once. Silent stepped forward. No words, just the heavy jingle of coin as he tossed a small burlap pouch onto the platform. It hit the wood with a dull thud, the unmistakable metallic clink echoing across the square. The auctioneer froze. His eyes bulged as he untied the pouch. Silver spilled into his palm like moonlight, enough to buy not just her, but every woman on that platform. A gasp rippled through the crowd. The rancher cursed under his breath and backed away. Other bidders lowered their eyes, stepping aside like cattle sensing a storm. Silent's expression never changed. He simply stood there, unmoving, unblinking, waiting. The auctioneer cleared his throat, licking his lips. Well, fair's fair. He gestured sharply to the men at the platform's edge. Unshackle her. Rough hands pulled at the rope, the bindings falling away. Evelyn rubbed her wrists, skin burning, mind racing. Was this rescue? Or had she simply been bought by a different kind of monster? Silent said nothing, just turned, walking away into the dust. The crowd parted for him, heads ducking, conversations low and uneasy. No one dared block his path. Evelyn hesitated. Her knees wobbled, but her eyes darted to the jeering faces, the leering grins, the hands still reaching toward the other women. Her heart thundered. Fear, hope, confusion. Then, with one shaky breath, she stepped off the platform, her bare feet hitting the dirt, and followed him. The men watched in silence. No laughter now, just wary eyes, tracking the girl and the ghost as they vanished into the streets. Cut to black. Twilight crept over the land like a slow-moving fog, staining the sky with bruises of purple and gray. The raw edges of the frontier town faded behind them, its crooked rooftops and dirt-streaked windows swallowed by distance. Ahead, the world stretched vast and merciless. Barren hills rolled like the backs of sleeping beasts, their slopes choked with sagebrush and jagged rock. Dense woods loomed farther on, black silhouettes clawing at the horizon. The trail they followed was nothing more than a faint scar on the earth, vanishing into shadow. Evelyn stumbled, her legs heavy, feet blistered inside borrowed boots too large for her. Hunger gnawed at her belly. The only sound, their footfalls, the distant cry of a hawk, and the faint rattle of her own breath. Silent walked ahead, steady, sure, unhurried. The dark coat clung to his broad frame, dust streaking the fabric. The wide-brimmed hat still hid his face, but his posture radiated quiet purpose. His rifle swayed at his back, a constant reminder of the world's danger and his place in it. Evelyn's mind churned. What was she to him? A prize? Property? Had she escaped the auction block only to fall under a different kind of chain? Her fingers tightened around the small bundle of supplies he'd thrust at her after they left town. A wool blanket, a strip of dried meat, a battered canteen. No words, no explanations. Just the things one needs to survive. The hills steepened. Evelyn's breaths came faster, ragged. Stones bit into her soles with every step, but pride kept her from asking to stop. Finally, as the last threads of light bled from the sky, Silent veered off the trail, weaving through a cluster of boulders into a hollow tucked between wind-carved rocks. His camp was simple, efficient, a small clearing shielded from the wind. Scraps of dry wood already piled near the fire pit, as if he'd prepared for this moment long before they'd arrived. Within minutes, flame licked the darkness, casting flickering orange light across the hollow. The scent of smoke curled into the air. Evelyn collapsed onto the cool earth, her legs trembling, the ache in her feet sharp as glass. Silent moved silently, arranging their camp, checking his rifle, never wasting motion. Then he approached. From his coat, he pulled a folded blanket, set it beside her. A strip of jerky followed, and finally the battered canteen. No words, no demands, just provision. His gaze met hers, unreadable. sharp as a drawn blade, but not cruel. Evelyn hesitated, then took the items, gnawing at the jerky, the salt burning her dry throat. She drank sparingly, mindful of the emptiness beyond. Why? Why did you buy me? Her voice cracked from disuse, raw and unsure. What do you want from me? Silent's expression didn't shift. He simply crouched by the fire, pulled a small knife from his belt, and began carving at a piece of wood. The rhythmic scrape of blade against grain filled the space between them. Evelyn stared, frustration prickling under her exhaustion. She had escaped chains, leering men, whispered threats, only to be met with silence. Yet, it wasn't the dangerous silence of cruelty. It was different. Heavy, yes, but not suffocating. Time drifted by, the fire crackling, shadows stretching. Silent turned the carved wood toward her, a small, roughly whittled figure, a crude depiction of a bird, its wings outstretched as if frozen mid-flight. Evelyn blinked, surprised. Her fingers brushed the smooth surface as he set it beside her. A rare, faint curve tugged at the corner of his lips. Not quite a smile, but close. Her suspicion wavered, confusion threading with reluctant curiosity. Still, doubts lingered. Memories of betrayal haunted her. Her uncle's grip, bruising her arm. The wagon ride to that godforsaken town. The glares of the traders. The sick feeling in her gut as the auctioneer called for bids. She remembered her father's voice. Don't trust a man just because he's quiet, Evie. Wolves don't always growl. But this man wasn't like the others. His silence wasn't predatory. It was protective or burdened. She couldn't tell. Later, as the fire's glow softened, Silent noticed her limping as she shifted by the flames. Without a word, he knelt, gently motioning for her foot. Evelyn hesitated, pride flaring but relented. He unlaced the worn boot, revealing raw, blistered skin. His hands were calloused, but careful as he wrapped the wound with clean cloth from his pack, his touch efficient, not invasive. Her heartbeat slowed, her wariness dimmed. A flicker, faint but present, of trust. They shared bread beside the fire. No conversation, just the quiet sounds of chewing, the occasional hiss of wind curling through the rocks. Above them, the stars emerged, sharp and bright in the ink-black sky. Wolves howled in the distance, lonely, haunting. Evelyn's shoulders tensed, but Silent's gaze remained steady, unmoved by the wilderness cries. He simply added wood to the fire, the flames pushing back the dark. Hours passed. Silent showed her, without words, how to watch the trail for tracks, how to feel for loose stones underfoot, how to listen for the whisper of danger riding the wind. Evelyn absorbed it all, wary, curious, unwilling to trust completely, but unwilling not to learn. Survival demanded it. As the night deepened, the fire's glow dimming, something shifted in the air. Footsteps, distant but deliberate, multiple. Evelyn froze. Her eyes darted to Silent, but he was already gone, melting into the darkness like smoke. She scrambled behind the rocks, heart hammering. From the shadows beyond, figures emerged. Rough, armed men, eyes hard, boots heavy. Bounty hunters, the same filth who'd sold her. Their voices slithered through the hollow. She's close. Ain't nobody buys a girl like that to let her go. Silent's a fool. We'll take her back. Triple the price this time. Evelyn's breath caught, pulse roaring. A shape moved behind the men. Fast. Silent. Silent struck. A blur of motion. The crack of bone. The hiss of a blade. One man collapsed, clutching his throat. Another spun, only to meet Silent's fist, crumpling like wet paper. The third froze, pistol raised, but Silent's rifle barrel pressed against his temple before the shot could ring out. A tense, silent moment. The bounty hunter's face blanched. His pistol clattered to the dirt. Silent pointed down the trail, the message clear. Leave. Don't come back. The bounty hunters retreated, dragging their injured with them, cursing under their breath. When the hollow fell silent once more, Silent reappeared by the fire. He sat, calm, unshaken. Evelyn's pulse still raced, her limbs trembling, but realization bloomed within her. He didn't just buy her. He rescued her. Not for possession, not for payment, for reasons locked behind his silence. Questions burned at the edges of her thoughts, but exhaustion won. As the first blush of dawn painted the hills in muted gold, they packed their sparse belongings. Silent mounted his horse, then offered her a hand. Evelyn hesitated, just a beat, then took it. Together, they rode into the mist-shrouded hills. A fragile, wordless alliance, forged in fire and uncertainty, stretched between them. The road beyond awaited. The storm had been stalking them for hours. Now, as they crested the ridge and the cliffs loomed sharp against the bruised sky, it finally caught up. Dark clouds churned above, swollen with rain. Thunder rumbled low, like some distant beast clearing its throat. Ahead, tucked against the rocky edge of the bluff, stood the cabin, or what was left of it. Weathered planks sagged on their frames. The roof caved in on one side, windows shattered, but the stone hearth still stood, stubborn against the wind, a last refuge before the storm. Evelyn pulled her horse to a halt, heart heavy. The cabin looked like it had been abandoned for years, but the way Silent guided them here, it meant something. His eyes swept the treeline, sharp, alert, every muscle in his frame coiled tight with wariness. They were running out of time. They dismounted, moving quickly. Silent checked the perimeter, set small traps among the rocks, tripwires, jagged metal hidden in the grass. His hands moved with practiced precision. Inside, Evelyn lit a small fire in the hearth, barricaded the half-broken door with a fallen beam. Her fear simmered beneath the surface, but her hands stayed steady. No more waiting to be rescued. Not tonight. The storm broke overhead. Rain pelted the roof, streaked down the walls, the wind howling through the cracks. The fire hissed and flared. In the flickering light, Evelyn noticed a battered trunk shoved in the corner, half buried under debris. Curious, she knelt, brushing away the dirt, prying it open. Inside, scraps of faded cloth, a rusted tin plate, and papers. Old journals. She pulled one free. The leather cover cracked beneath her fingers. Inside, the ink had run with time, but the words remained legible. The name at the top, property of Sergeant Matthew Cade. Her breath caught. Pages filled with military reports, notes, dates, faint sketches of the plains, of battles, of faces. Among them, a small, tarnished badge, its edges worn smooth. She looked up. Silent knelt by the door, his rifle in hand, eyes distant. The firelight danced over his face, the scars across his throat, the tight line of his jaw. Matthew Cade. The realization settled in like cold iron. He wasn't just some drifter or outlaw. He'd been a soldier. The words in the journal pieced together the truth. Scout for the army, sent deep into the frontier, witness to bloodshed, betrayal, massacres too brutal for reports. And then silence. Not cowardice, not injury, a choice. To speak of horrors was to relive them. Silence became his rebellion, his quiet defiance. And now, her rescue was his penance. Before Evelyn could speak, a faint snap outside jolted them both. Footsteps, voices, the bounty hunters. They had followed the trail, waited for their moment. The cabin, their trap now. Silent moved without sound, setting the final tripwire. Evelyn grabbed the rifle he'd left leaning against the hearth, her pulse racing. She wasn't the girl from the auction block anymore. The rain turned to a curtain, thunder cracking above. Shadows danced beyond the shattered windows. A voice barked, Silent. Send the girl out. This doesn't have to get bloody. Evelyn's jaw clenched. Her grip tightened on the rifle. Silence. Eyes met hers. A silent question. She nodded. Resolve settled over her. They wouldn't run. Not this time. The door splintered under a boot. Gunfire erupted. Silent moved like smoke, swift, brutal. His rifle cracked. Dropping the first intruder, Evelyn ducked low, returning fire through a jagged window. The kick of the weapon jarred her shoulder, but she didn't hesitate. Another man burst through the side, only to meet Silent's knife in the dark. The cabin shook with chaos. Rain lashing, bullets splintering wood. Then a shot rang out, close. Silent staggered, blood blooming across his side. Silent. Evelyn scrambled to him, dragging him behind the hearth. His face twisted with pain, blood seeping between his fingers. But his eyes stayed sharp. More footsteps. One bounty hunter remained. Closer now, weapon raised, boots crunching glass. Silent's hand gripped her wrist, urgent, desperate. His mouth opened, and for the first time, his voice broke the silence. Rough, raw, worn from disuse, but unmistakable. You're not theirs. He forced the words out like stones. You're not property. Run. Evelyn shook her head, tears blurring her vision. Her grip tightened on the rifle. The final bounty hunter rounded the corner, gun aimed, his sneer twisted with victory. Evelyn didn't hesitate. The rifle kicked against her shoulder as she fired. The bounty hunter dropped. The cabin fell silent again, save for the hiss of rain, the rasp of their breathing. Evelyn's hands trembled, her heart thundered, but she had done it. Silent slumped, his strength waning. Evelyn tore a strip from her dress, pressing it against the wound. Her touch firm, determined. The bond between them, fragile hours ago, was sealed now in blood and fire. Outside, the storm finally began to break. The rain slowed, the clouds parting as dawn crept over the horizon. Soft light spilled into the cabin, washing over the broken wood, the spent shells, the scars. Silent groaned softly as he tried to rise. Evelyn looped his arm over her shoulders, supporting him. Easy, she whispered. We're not done yet. Together, they stepped out of the ruined cabin, the wind cool against their faces. The bounty hunters beaten gone. The storm passed, but the road ahead remained uncertain. Still, they were free. Scarred, bloodied, but unbroken, Evelyn helped him down the path toward the mist-shrouded hills. No promises, no guarantees, just survival, and the quiet understanding between two souls carved from hardship. The reckoning had come, and they were still standing in a land where innocence is currency and silence hides wounds deeper than words. Trust isn't given, it's earned. She was meant to be sold, silenced, broken, but fate had other plans. Instead, she found her voice, and the man long muted by grief found reason to speak again. If this story gripped your heart, if it made you question what survival, courage, and redemption look like on the rugged frontier, then don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps bring these forgotten tales to life. What would you have done? Would you have trusted silent or turned away? Let me know down below. And remember, out here, sometimes the quietest ones carry the loudest truths. Screen fades to black. Subtle instrumental outro music swells.